Excuse me, everyone, I have a brief announcement to make. Jesus was black, Ronald Reagan was the devil, and the government is lying about 9/11. Thank you for your time and good night.
Shalom, I. Shalom, I. YAHANNA, YAHWH Barakathum.
YAHWH, YAHWH Barakathum.
No one knows because they tried to keep it on the low from all my folks because they thought so I'ma kill them with the flow. Blinded by the dough, we can't see clearly through the smoke. They'd rather see us on that troll, locked up, they're buried in a hole. Ain't wanna see us grow because they can't go toe to toe, but I can feel it in my soul. They gon' be reaping what they sow. Try to stop our glow, but they cannot achieve their goal, so I can feel it in my soul. They gon' be what they sow.
Hey, who shall be smalls? If we don't get them, they gon' get us all. And I'll be damned if I just sit back while my people fall. There is no contestant when we all in this together. So let's come together now so we can end this shit forever. I don't wanna go to school, I'd rather read up on my enemies and study all the methods used to kill my people mentally. Sex, money, and drugs is destroying our identity. And this ain't nothing new, this shit been going on for centuries. Instead of fighting for rights, we should have been fighting for our land. Now we fighting for the man, they'll go right into their plan. And I'm sick of this, it's ridiculous how the government is such hypocrites. They make the laws, then break the laws. How serious should I take the laws? My blood, homie, I'll take the laws. This family first, worst come to worst, and I die for mine. Me and my niggas, we charged up like alkaline. We strapped up like Columbine. When it's wartime, I'm on the front line. Facts life, I'm acting like I was born again, it's the afterlife.
No one knows because they tried to keep it low from all my folks because they thought so I'ma kill them with the flow. Blinded by the dough, we can't see clearly through the smoke. They'd rather see us on that troll, locked up, they're buried in a hole. Ain't wanna see us grow because they can't go toe to toe, but I can feel it in my soul. They gon' be reaping what they sow. Try to stop our glow, but they cannot achieve their goal, so I can feel it in my soul. They gon' be reaping what they sow. Check it, get your life right, cause this the last call. Christ coming back and he's gonna judge us all. It can happen while you shopping, walk around the mall. Where you from, where you at, Babylon will fall. Lose your head by the sword or obey his laws. You hear them drum beats? We in the midst of war, but it's a holy one. I speak the holy tongue. YAHWH, YAHWH Barakathum. I got the most high power, I ain't need a gun. I'll be out here repping till his kingdom come. His bread's for the children, you can't get a crumb. Yeah, they hear me, they ain't feeling where I'm coming from. But lottie-dottie, fuck everybody from the Catholic Church to Illuminati. Christ coming back, now the Anunnaki trying to warn the people, but they tried to knock me. What you thought that I wasn't gonna throw my voice in? Fuck all of y'all, white Jesus poison. No one knows because they tried to keep it on the low from all my folks because they thought so I'ma kill them with the flow. Blinded by the dough, we can't see clearly through the smoke. They'd rather see us on that troll, locked up, they're buried in a hole. Ain't wanna see us grow because they can't go toe to toe, but I can feel it in my soul. They gon' be reaping what they sow. Try to stop our glow, but they cannot achieve their goal, so I can feel it in my soul. They gon' be reaping what they sow. No one knows because they tried to keep it on the low from all my folks because they thought so I'ma kill them with the flow. Blinded by the dough, we can't see clearly through the smoke. They'd rather see us on that troll, locked up, they're buried in a hole. Ain't wanna see us grow because they can't go toe to toe, but I can feel it in my soul. They gon' be reaping what they sow. Try to stop our glow, but they cannot achieve their goal, so I can feel it in my soul. They gon' be reaping what they sow.
Ow!
You're having that dream where you made the white people riot, weren't you?
But I was telling the truth.
How many times have I told you you better not even dream about telling white
I ain't have to die to meet the devil. Angels fell and landed in the ghetto. The earth was given to the hands of devils. Then we seen the rise of the devil. We fell for the lies of the devil. When we got high, I looked into the eyes of the devil. I I ain't have to die to meet the devil.
I remember I was only 13 when I met the demon. Gave me a deuce and a bundle of cocaine. Told me to sell to my people, make sure you keep them fiending. If any try to show you, make sure that you leave them leaking. He said, I'ma hold you down when problems pop up. How you got me moving this dope? Want me in lockup? He said, don't you want the Benz vertible with the top up? Yeah. Stop, bitch, you get in that kitchen. Let it rock up. Bitches love the dope boys. I know you know Ron. Who the plug from by the block? I know you little secret. Make sure that you keep your mouth shut. Ron got a Lexus, crib in Philly and Texas. Trips to the Bahamas, just got a whip for his mama. He fucking up in commas. Be honest, he seeing decent though. I hear you, but I just seen Ron about a week ago. In fact, he ain't looking too good. His knees is kind of slow. I asked him why the struggle. He got stuck up for his bundle, but them 6 hollow tips in his legs would make it crumble. He got a house and mama is living good. Said the feds took it all, he right back in the hood. I see you try to play me, you gave us crack in the 80s. Made us abort our babies and making hoes out our ladies. I know you got me gravy, but Satan, you must be crazy. It's gonna take more than them calls when to amaze me. I seen niggas shoot for the stars, but being lazy. Never get their head at the clouds, so you don't faze me. I guarantee that you won't regret it. Remember I said it. No, you could dead it. What you saying, I can't win? No, devil, nice try. So until we meet again.
Meet the devil. Angels fell and landed in the ghetto. The earth was given to the hands of devils. Then we seen the rise of the devil. We fell for the lies of the devil. When we got high was the devil. I looked into the eyes of the devil. I ain't have to die to meet the devil. I ain't religious or superstitious, but we been getting fucked and put to the side like a mistress. Police patrolling why? Because prison can't business laws and they start talking about forgiveness. We think that it's alright because we got public assistance. If this ain't hell, dog, what is this? Where was all lives mattered when they killed Osama? There was no peace talk like the Dalai Lama. Bush dropping bombs saying he gon' bring the drama. They got justice, man, they even caught the Boston bomber. But when we ride, they send the military and armor. When we fight oppression, then our people die a martyr. You reap what you sow, some people call it karma. When Christ return, y'all gon' get this harvest like a farmer. Don't tell me we don't bring up the set of the score with a I changed my life and I'm just trying to live life right. But at night me ain't legs, patted me right. So Mr. Officer, why you wanna take my life? And your honor, why you gave our homeboy's life? I've been wondering why you shot our homeboy twice. Pussy with a gun screaming out that he got a knife. He came from Habibi's spot, it was chicken and rice. Shit's tripe, I'm just giving visuals like Skype. As Trayvon, Mike Brown, a Kai Gurley, Eric Garner, Sean Bell, Philando, Olden, Sterling, Jaquan McDonald. The white man is so devilish. Ask Hammurabi, he'll tell you who the devil is. The white man is so devilish. Ask Hammurabi, he'll tell you who the devil is. I ain't have to die to meet the devil. Angels fell and landed in the ghetto. The earth was given to the hands of devils. Rise of the devil. We fell for the lies of the devil. When we got high was the devil. I looked into the eyes of the devil. I ain't have to die to meet the devil. I ain't have to die to meet the devil. Angels fell and landed in the ghetto. The earth was given to the hands of devils. And we seen the rise of the devil. I pray for the demise of the devil. Lord knows I despise every devil. I looked into the eyes of the devil and said, I pray you die, every devil.
Hey, Shalom, Israel. Hey, this is Precinct Officer Thawaga Bar, I.S.U.P.K. This is the Law and History class. I got some good topics to go into. We're going to go into feminism, and we're going to look at why feminism, why our people, or should I say, why our women are following this way of life and this lifestyle, and what has been the result of us following feminism. We'll talk about oppression. And of course, we are not African. I definitely want to touch on that. I want to bring out some history on that also, if I can get it in and pack it in, right? Let me see what the let's see. Just give me 1 second. Young man, are you there?
Con, I'm here. It was just delaying during the whole intro.
Right.
The Wi-Fi is tripping again.
No sweat. Let me see. What I'm sounding like now.
The sound is to walk now.
So it was the screen share. It was the issue with the screen share that was causing the problem then.
Okay.
So if you're watching, let me know what it sound like. Is it choppy? Most High in Christ. So yeah, so we're gonna get into reparations. I mean, not reparations, so like it. That was a topic I wanted to get into because people were talking about reparations. Reparations is a topic that always comes around a certain time. Just now for me, the years I've been in I.S.U.P.K, and I learned that just look and just pay attention around voting time. That's when they start to talk about reparations. They start to talk about, issues and things that will spark Black people to want to vote for a certain candidate. So the reality is that the oppressor, the so-called white man, is not going to give Black people reparations. When it comes to what Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian people are owed, as far as the atrocities, as far as the things that have happened to us, the lost revenue, unpaid, expense, being unpaid and working and all of that, those things are never going to be handed to us, because if they were handed to us, America would fall overnight. And what I mean by that is white America will fall overnight, and it'll be a transfer or a transformation of wealth. It'll be a transfer of wealth to where Black and Hispanic people will be the people on top, and Caucasians will be the people who are the lower class and the poorer class. And, they are not going to have that. So real reparations would actually come from the Most High. That's where real reparations will actually come. Real retribution, real justice for the crimes, the oppression that has happened to God's chosen people, who are Black and brown people, right? So I want to talk about the history of feminism. That's what I want to get into. I'm going to get into the history of feminism. All right. And Salakia, when it comes to this, I'm in California and the weather's been changing. When it comes to this weather, my allergies has been acting up. And I've never had allergies my whole life. But I seen a study where it said that doctors have noticed that people that are in their 30s and 40s who have never had allergies are having allergies. Because I've never had allergies my whole life. And all of a sudden, about 2 years ago, I started to get allergies, whenever the weather would change. And so I knew I wasn't tripping. And I knew I had never had it in my whole life. And I heard of people having allergies their whole life. And so when I seen that study, not study, but that story of doctors saying that they're now seeing a lot of cases of people who are in their 30s and 40s for the first time having allergies. Well, I'm one of them. So we're going to get into feminism. And if you could, Salakia, let me get that. So, young man, if you could get the article I sent you on feminism, I want to go into that. And can you hear me good enough?
God, I can hear you.
Most High in Christ.
The second one,
Yes, the second one.
it's still just the
It
article.
starts off with feminism. So it goes into the definition of what feminism is. It starts off with that.
God.
Because a lot of people don't even know what feminism is.
Right.
Your background sounds a little loud. Is there any way you could
Track. Go somewhere else and look at the people in the house. Does it sound better here?
Yeah, that's the what.
Let me start reading now.
Yeah, go ahead.
God. It says, feminism is aimed at defining, establishing, and defending a state of equal political, economic, cultural, and social rights for women.
So let me know if it's delayed or not, but you can stop right there. But feminism is it aimed at in defining and establishing basically equal rights. Basically, women being equal to men, whether it be in the political arena, economically, how much you get paid, cultural and social rights for women. So that's the base core of feminism, right? Go ahead.
It says, it has had a massive influence on American politics. Feminism in the United States is often divided chronologically into first wave, second wave, third wave, and fourth wave feminism.
Mm-hmm.
As of 2023, the United States is ranked 17th in the world on gender equality, image/video, transgender MMA.
Salaki. Yeah, so it's basically just a way of women wanting to equal the playing field. But who were these women, right? Who were the women that wanted to equal the playing field? Because you got to remember, when feminism, well, we're going to get into the history, but when feminism started, when feminism started, this was during a time when, Black people really didn't have any rights. It was segregation, right? So was it really for Black women is the question. So go ahead and keep reading.
The first wave of feminism in the United States began with the Seneca Falls Convention, the first women's rights convention held at the Wesleyan Chapel in Seneca Falls, New York, on July 19th and 20th in 1848.
So the first convention for feminism, the first wave of feminism started in 1848. Black people hadn't even got free yet. Technically, right? Allegedly. Emancipation Proclamation was what? 1865. We're talking about 1848. So Caucasian women were fighting for the right to be equal to men, while Black women were still slaves. You understand? Go ahead.
The Seneca Falls Convention was inspired by the experiences of Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Lucretia Mott at the World Anti-Slavery Convention in London in 1840.
So this was established. This thing was inspired by two Caucasian women, and you're going to find out the reason why. Go ahead and read.
The conference refused to seat Mott and other women delegates from America because of their gender.
Right. So in this conference in London, they refused to seat them at this convention, put them in, sit them around, the people that were the showcase. They decided not to sit them around them. They didn't seat them because of their gender, because they were women. Go ahead. Now we're talking about people who are not Black. We're talking about, another world. Like we say in John 3:16, it doesn't mean the whole world. There's many worlds. Like there's many worlds. We're talking about the white man's world, because in our world at that time, we were on a plantation. So in our world, we didn't have rights at that time. So we're talking about the white world and, the white man and his woman and how he treated his woman. Right? Go ahead.
Stanton, the young bride of an anti-slavery agent, and Mott, a Quaker preacher and veteran of reform, talked of calling a convention to address the condition and treatment of women.
So this woman was a Quaker preacher who the Quakers, if I'm not mistaken, they made deals with Indians and killed them. But nevertheless, she said, well, we need to have conventions. We need to talk about the condition of how they treat women. Treat what women? White women. That's the point. So we're looking at the history. This is the history of feminism, about how it started and how it got to the point that it is at today. If you could wait, give me 1 second. Let me get something real quick. Go ahead and go.
Okay.
Keep going.
An estimated 300 people attended this convention, including notables Lucretia Mott, Frederick Douglass,
And
the
Frederick
conclusion.
Douglass, right? Frederick Douglass went to this convention. Now, Frederick Douglass is a world-renowned, black, somebody that is everybody knows as being somebody very prominent in black history. Frederick Douglass, I think I believe Frederick Douglass' father was white, if I'm not mistaken. And then later on, he first married a black woman. Then later on in his older years, he married a white woman. But he was at this convention to, help fight for women's rights or white women's rights. Go ahead.
At the conclusion, 68 women and 32 men signed the Declaration of Sentiments, which was written by Elizabeth Cady Stanton and the McClintock family.
So they wrote a declaration of sentiments, of things that they felt should change regarding the treatment of women versus men. Now we're talking about the world of white women. And this, when did this was in 1840, right? So we're still talking about way before black people was ever freed. So what you'll realize is a lot of things that we agree with when it comes to America, a lot of things we believe in, a lot of holidays that we celebrate were instituted before we even had freedom to even involve ourselves or participate in those things. So that's something to keep in mind. Go ahead.
The Declaration of Sentiments was written in the style and format of the Declaration of Independence. For example, the Declaration of Sentiments stated, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women are created equal and endowed by the Creator with certain inalienable rights."
So this Declaration of Sentiments, remember, we're talking about the beginning of feminism. This Declaration of Sentiments was written in the style of the Declaration of Independence. So like it said, for example, we hold all of these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women are created equal, right? That, like, the Declaration of Independence says that all men are created equal. Meanwhile, all men were not free. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's a contradiction and it's hypocrisy. And even when they were, drawing up these sentiments for the Declaration, for feminism, for the equality of Caucasian women with Caucasian men, it starts off by saying that all men and women are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, which is not true, because black men and black women, we're talking about feminism, were in slavery. Wasn't true.
Right.
It was hypocrisy. You understand? Go ahead and let me see. One second. Go ahead and read.
The Declaration further stated, "The history of mankind is a history of repeated injuries and usurpation on the part of man towards women.
I want you to reread that again.
Okay.
This is what the sentiment said. Reread that.
The Declaration further stated, the history of mankind is a history of repeated injuries and usurpation on the part of men towards women.
So they said that the history of mankind was a history of repeated injuries, meaning men injuring women and usurping authority over women, right? So these Caucasian women didn't want to be ruled by their men. What does the Bible say about a man's place in a woman's place, right? Give me 1 second. Give me what I want. Give me Genesis 3 and 13.
Okay.
3 and 16. And we know the scripture says that there's an order. The order is the Most High. Christ is under the Most High. Man is under Christ, and woman is under man. So if you're under your man, that means he has authority over you. The problem is that this society has given women authority over men. And what I mean by that, and I'm not talking about little boys, I'm talking about women are in positions where they rule over a man, where they tell a man what to do. You understand? In the kingdom of heaven, there will be no women dictating what men are supposed to do. Women will dictate what other women are supposed to do and what children are supposed to do. But in this world, women rule over and are given authority and power to rule over. But this world is not the world of Christ, of Jesus Christ. This is not Christ is not of this world. But when Christ is returned and he establishes his kingdom, there will be no more, women judges and women CO officers and women in the military, commanders and all of that crap. It won't be none of that. Right? Go ahead.
The book of Genesis, chapter 3 and verse 16. Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee.
And your husband shall rule over you, right? Well, Caucasian women felt at that time, while black women and black men were enslaved in chains, that they didn't want to be ruled over by white men. They felt that white men, were incapable of ruling over them, and they should be equal to their man who had built their reality and built their, a lifestyle that they had in America, meaning they had a lifestyle where they had slaves. They had people who were subservient. They had a lower class of people, and they were put on a pedestal. They didn't want that. They wanted to be equal with that man, right? Go ahead. Where we at?
Back to the article or the scripture?
Get it back to the article. No sweat.
The Declaration further stated, the history of mankind is a history of repeated injuries and assertion on the part of man towards women. The Declaration went on to specify female grievances in regard to the laws denying married women ownership of wages, money, and property. Women were required to turn these things over to their husbands. The laws requiring this in effect throughout America were called coverture laws. A woman's lack of access to education and professional careers and the low status accorded to women in most churches was also addressed. Furthermore, the Declaration declared that women should have the right to vote.
So when it came to these women, it was that they had grievances. They had things that the fact that they couldn't make money. They couldn't make the money or own the money once they made it, and they couldn't own property, right? So they had things to where they wanted to do something. They had a lust to where, you know what? I want to have my own property. Now we're talking about married women.
Right.
Now, when it comes to being married, Whether the man has it, I ain't gonna say whether, but what the man has is the woman's. Now that's according to the Bible, right? For some reason in their world, they felt like these women felt like, no, I want to have things that I own. I want to have things in my name. I want to do this. I want to do that. Fine, right? Give me Proverbs 31, because this is what the Bible says about a woman. Like a woman can own things as far as being in the truth, in the truth of the Bible. A woman could have a business. She could do a lot of different things. She's not just held down to where she's what they say, a slave, right?
Wow. So like you said, Proverbs 31.
Proverbs 31. You know what? Just hold that. I want you to just hold that precept.
Okay.
And we're going to keep going. I want you to go to the suffrage movement.
Okay.
For time's sake.
Suffrage movement in 1866. Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony formed the American Equal Rights Association, an organization for white and black women and men dedicated to the goal of suffrage for all.
So they got smart. So the suffrage movement, and it says Susan B. Anthony. Susan B. Anthony, she's on the silver dollar, I believe. Y'all help me out. She's on the silver dollar, and they started an organization called the American Equal Rights Organization, and it was for white and black women. So they said, you know what? We can't get the power on our own. We're going to get some of the. Now, let me mind you, this is 1866, a year after the Emancipation Proclamation, a year after when the slaves were free, right? All of a sudden, this just shows you that when it comes to politics, black people are used as pawns.
Right.
Like General Hyman says, when it comes to politics, it's a game that mice try to play, that is run by snakes. Like so when it comes to politics and voting and all of that, you really actually think that you're doing a good deed and you're doing something that is effectively changing something, and that's how you're pulled in. When in reality, you're just used as a pawn. You're just used as an ends to a means. And right here, you can see that it's telling you in 1866, a year after the slaves were free, they said, let's get these slaves in here. Let's get black women in here. Let's boost up our numbers. Let's get them to fight our cause. Help them. Let's get them to help us fight our cause. Right. And then not only that, it said black women and men dedicated to the goal of suffrage for all. The suffrage movement was a movement for voting. That's what the suffrage movement was. It was you'll probably hear this. It was a movement for voting, for the rights of women to vote, and eventually the rights for black people to vote. Right. But as you can see, they used this and they were very crafty. They always be crafty. Like I said, when it comes to reparations, that conversation comes around every year, around when it's time to vote or when it's time to start looking at a candidate for something. Somebody will bring up the issue of reparations to get people to rally black people, for black people to get behind them. It's no different than right here with this suffrage movement. That's what they did. They seen what they needed to do, and they said, in order to boost our numbers, we'll get the Negroes to help us. Go ahead. Post-war feminism. So this is the war after. This is post-war feminism. Let's go.
Post-war feminism, World War II, led to an increase in women in the workforce and pushed women into breadwinning jobs in traditionally male spheres. So when
When World War II happened, all the men, all the men went to war, and it forced Caucasian white women to go into the workforce, and they put out all type of ads for women to go into the workforce. Here's one right here. They put these ads out, and they basically targeted the wives of these men that now were in the war and couldn't work these jobs. All the men that were drafted, and they lost. America lost a great chunk of their workforce because of that. Go ahead.
From 1940 to 1945, the number of women in the workforce went from 28% to 37%.
See, the number of the women in the workforce went from 28% to 37%, right? Because, like I said, all the men went to World War II. Right. And now these women, these Caucasian women that were fighting to be equal, now they had a chance to be equal.
Right.
So now they had a chance to do some of the work that men do. They had an opportunity to go into the factories and go into the warehouses and do some of that hard work that men were doing. Keep reading.
Yeah. The lack of men at home led to many women taking industrial jobs. By 1943, 1/3 of the workers in Boeing's Seattle factory were women. According to historian Jane Marcellus, women experienced a never-before-seen shift in public praise as they were as they were commended as being competent and intelligent.
So women got a lot of praise for going to work. Before that, women, they were just housewives. Before that, they just took care of their children. They just did things around the house. They ran errands. And I'm not saying anything is wrong with that, but that's what the average white woman's life was like. Meanwhile, the average black woman's life, her life was, working. The average black man's life, his life was working. It wasn't like, you had opportunities as a black man to bring home the bacon and your wife is at home taking care of the house. Now, there were now, when it comes to the family structure with black people, like during this time, when you want to talk about the family structure of our people, the household was more intact, though.
Right.
You had 2-parent homes, as opposed to this after integration, you didn't have 2-parent homes. After the women's liberation movement, you didn't have 2-parent homes. But when you're talking about these times during World War II, black people's homes were intact as far as the family structure. We didn't have all of the opportunity as far as jobs and everything, but what we did have was each other. We did have community. We did have that intact, but those things would soon break apart once the civil rights movement got going. Right. So where we at? According to, okay, go start back at where, according to history. Historian Jane.
According to historian Jane Marcellus, women experienced a never before seen shift in public praise as they were commended as being competent and intelligent. This is exemplified in media such as Rosie the Riveter's "We Can Do It" slogan in the 1940 war. So, like in 1941, creation of Wonder Woman.
Right. So let me get that. Let me see if I can find that real quick. The Rosie the Riveter was a slogan that we can do it. It was a advertisement. Let me see if I can pull that up for y'all real quick. Pull that up real quick. There we go. and I want you to reread that that last sentence. You hear me, young man? So this is Rosie the Riveter. You there, young man? Salakia. He must have fell off, but I'm gonna read. I'm gonna go ahead and read. It says, according to historian Jane Marcellus, women experience a never before seen shift in public praise as they were commended as being competent and intelligent. This is an example in media such as Rosie the Riveter, "We can do it." That slogan in 1941 and the creation of Wonder Woman. This influx of women into the workforce and media and the media's positive portrayal of them led to many women seeing more routes to take than being a housewife. So let me add you there. You in there? So when it comes to this is Rosie the Riveter. So this is the thing they put out. They put this out as far as you know, the example of, you know, white housewives going to work in the absence of their husbands, you know, because of their husband's absence being in World War II. So they really pushed this, and this really blew up because of feminism back in those days of women just wanting to be equal to men and do what men do. Where we at? So you can pick up where I left off. So it says, however, you there, young man?
God, I'm here. Salakia.
All right.
You said you were, however.
Yeah. However, this narrow definition.
God, I see it. However, this narrow definition of female empowerment was exclusive and not intended to be long-lasting.
Now listen to this. Listen to this. Go ahead.
Women of color were the last to be considered for high-paying industrial jobs.
Women of color were last to be considered for high-paying industrial jobs. So this feminism or this push to be equal with men was only a Caucasian woman thing. This had nothing to do with black women. But a lot of white women saw the fact that if they add these black women to their numbers, they could be more powerful in their cause. Go ahead.
Okay. Women of color were the last to be considered for high-paying industrial jobs. African American women were stuck doing domestic work for $3 to $7 a week, compared to white women earning up to $40 a week in factories.
So it says African American women were stuck doing domestic work. What is that domestic work? That domestic work was working in some white woman's house in a nice neighborhood, cleaning her house, being a maid, being a mammy, catching a bus for 2 and 3 hours out to the nice neighborhood and cleaning that house, preparing the food, and then going back home to your family in the ghetto, making $3 to $7 a week, compared to white women earning $40 a week in factories. Right? Go ahead.
Okay. Furthermore, propaganda such as Rosie the Riveter prevented a narrow view of working women, white, beautiful, and motivated by patriotism, rather than economic necessity.
So it says the propaganda such as Rosie the Riveter presented a narrow view of working women. They were white, they were beautiful, and they were motivated by patriotism, meaning they were motivated by the fact that their husband was out to war fighting for his country rather than necessity. Black women, meaning you're working because you gotta work. You're working because it's a necessity. You're working because if you don't work, then nobody eats. And so it was a difference when it came to the reasons in this feminist movement, the reason why white women or how white women were looked at versus how black women were looked at. Black women wasn't looked at like they were working because they were patriotic. They wasn't looked at as that they was, they was working, they were beautiful and all of that. No, that was their thing. Our thing was just trying to survive. That was our thing. Right? Go ahead.
Okay. For women of color and working class women, World War II did not change their economic and social position. Many of the women joining the workforce.
So women of color, the World War II did not change their economic or societal position. The whole idea was for women to get on the level of men. Now that they had an opportunity, you would think that because feminism was pushing this, you would think that all the men are going to battle. Now all women could get on that level, but no, not sisters, not black women. You could not get on that level. You could not change your condition. And it says that their condition or their economic and societal condition did not change. But white women's condition did change. So you see that don't make that don't sound equal to me. That don't sound like a deal to me for black women to believe in feminism. Even back then, it didn't sound like it was something that was beneficial to black women. Maybe because it wasn't.
Right.
Go ahead.
Many of the women joining the workforce returned to the domestic sphere after the war. Workplace periodicals such as Bosun's Whistle framed women in sexual language and as oddities in the male industrial sphere.
Right. Go ahead. Keep reading.
Opposition to the domestic roles began to crop up in late 1940s as more women were encouraged to become housewives. Edith Stern's 1949 essay, Women Are Household Slaves, emerged as an early preface to second wave feminist thought. Stern argued that as long as the institution of housewifery in its present form persists, both ideologically and practically, it blocks any true liberation of women.
So this woman named Edith Stern in 1949, she wrote an essay which said women are household slaves.
Right.
That sounds familiar. Barefoot, naked, cooking in the kitchen. That sounds like something I heard before. I feel like I've heard that before somewhere. Maybe I heard that from black women. Maybe I heard sisters regurgitate that and re-say that. You know what I mean? Maybe I think I probably heard that before. I don't know, young man. Have you heard that before about about women being slaves because they're at home, right? So this woman named Edith Stern, she wrote an essay that said that women are household slaves and that if things don't change ideologically and practically, it will block any true liberation of women. This is something that is concrete, hardcore, the way it is since the beginning of time, of a woman being a woman. There are things that men do that women don't need to do. I seen a video. It was what was it? It was a transgender. I should pull the video up. It's a transgender, a man that identifies as a woman, MMA, with a black woman that's really a black woman, and they're fighting, and he just knees the hell out of her and knocks the sister into a daze. And they trying to help her up, and she just getting up and falling and and leaning. There's things that men do that women should not do.
Right.
When it comes to you being a Black and Hispanic woman, there are things that have been injected into your mind, injected into your thought process that are not natural. These things come from your oppressor. These things come from the women of your oppressor. You start to think that you can fight a man that thinks he a woman, and you're gonna be laid out. And I felt bad for the sister because she honestly looked like she didn't know where she was at. And at the end, when they allowed them to talk, the thing that looked like a woman got on the mic and said, yeah, you like that? Yeah, I'm taking out all y'all. I'm ready for all y'all. You're not even, it was a man. He's not even a woman. But that's the result of the feminist movement. Transgenderism, LGBTQ, all of that stuff comes from this movement of wanting to be equal to man.
Right.
All of it. Anyway, where we at? I think where we are at
the women are household slaves.
Yeah.
Slovakia. I'm sorry. Edith Stern's 1949 essay, Women Are Household Slaves, emerged as an early preface to the second wave feminist thought. Stern argued that as long as the institution of housewifery in its present form persists, both ideologically and practically, it blocks any true liberation of women. She compared the position of women to that of sharecroppers and spoke out against the emotional and intellectual dissatisfaction of American women. However, the 1950s did witness a return to traditional gender roles and values. The number of women in the workforce decreased from 37% to 32% by 1950. Due to women at
Salakia, keep going, Salakia.
By 1950, due to women giving up their jobs for men returning from war.
So in the 1950s, traditional gender roles, people returned to traditional gender roles because the men came back from war. Right. And the women, so the number of women working dropped, and it kind of got back to normal. And also, keep reading. So I don't want to skip ahead.
Okay. By 1956, 67% of American families had television, compared to just 6% in 1949. Characters such as June Cleaver in Leave It to Beaver glorified female characters as a subservient housewife to a large, influenceable audience of American women.
So by 1956, 67% of families, they had televisions in their house. And so a lot of programs on television were family-oriented programs where you had traditional housewives. And it also, what it said was, when it came to shows like Leave It to Beaver, it glorified female characters as subservient housewives to a large, influenceable audience of American women. And that's something that you got to really peep, that they understood that women could be influenced very, very easy. Women can be influenced by television, right? Give me 1 second. Give me 2 Timothy 3:6. So they can see in this article, they understood that when it came to television and the images portrayed by women who watched these shows were very gullible. very, 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 very what is the word? Gullible is the word. I don't think there's a other word for somebody that is easily influenced. So they notice that, and this is something that you got to understand when it comes to women. Like the Bible says that women are the weaker vessel, and your oppressor knows that. He knows that the things that he puts in front of you, maybe you as a man are not going to follow, but it's a 70% chance that your woman is going to maybe follow, look at it, maybe think about it, maybe even try it, right? Because from a biblical perspective, that is how the Lord designed us. He designed men one way, he designed women one way, but the Bible also acknowledges that women could be very gullible. That women are the weaker vessel, right? That's 2 Timothy 3:6.
I got it.
You got it. Go ahead.
The book of 2 Timothy, chapter 3 and verse 6. For of this sort are they which creep into houses and lead captive silly women laden with sins, led
I
away
want
with diverse lusts.
I want you to skip up one, so maybe 3 and 5.
The book of 2 Timothy, chapter 3 and verse 5. Having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof, from such turn away.
Keep going.
Verse 6. For of this sort are they which creep into houses and led captive silly women, laden with sins, led away with diverse lusts.
So this is talking about men, pastors, false prophets, people that speak real, their tongue is real sharp, and they say something to a woman and they can get a woman, a silly, gullible woman, to believe it. So when it comes to these things such as these movements, that's why you see women be the number one participators in all of these different movements, because women can be very silly and very gullible,
Right.
like a child. Women will follow things and they'll move just off of their emotions and how they feel about something, and they'll go head first, all in, not knowing they're being led astray.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that's what happened with feminism. That's what happened when it comes to our women in this feminism, the women's liberation movement, that whole movement, and it progressed over decades. We read it, it was in 1948 where we started. I'm sorry, the 1840s where we started, all the way up into this point. It has changed and it has morphed into something else. It has morphed into other movements. It has taken over. Like our sisters was down with us in civil rights, but feminism and women's liberation kind of like took the focus off of the real problem, which is civil rights for Black people, to women worrying about themselves and wanting to be equal with Black men and wanting to be liberated from Black men. It's like, what the hell do you need to be liberated from Black men? We're getting killed by these people. Why are we worried about something like that when we got bigger fish to fry? When we are, even today, now the rights and civil rights of Black people is on the back burner. Even when it comes to, when it comes to all of these things, the Me Too movement, women's liberation, feminism, LGBTQ, those things are bigger and more important in society's eyes now than civil rights for Black people. Black people just getting treated like a human being. Hispanic people just getting treated like someone that is a human being and not being called a goddamn alien, right? Like you're from another planet or something.
Right.
Those things basically are in the background now. Like, and those should be the most important issues. They never got resolved. We still get treated the way we was getting treated in the 1960s. But now, because of feminism, women's liberation, all that, they done found new things to whine and cry about. And that's what people do. right? But when it comes to our sisters, when it comes to our women, and it's not just Black and Hispanic women, this is women in general. Because if it wasn't, all women wouldn't agree upon these certain things. This is all women, very gullible, can be very silly. That's the reason why a man can have a woman on a street corner selling her behind, selling her tail, because she could be very silly and very gullible. She could agree with things that she shouldn't agree with. She could be very loose, and you know, she don't understand the danger in following these things. But it's been 30, 40 years, so we can see the results of following feminism. Feminism is not something that fixes Black and Hispanic households. It hasn't proved that it can fix a household. So why in the hell are our sisters even following it? And a lot of Black and Hispanic women are feminists without even knowing they're feminists, because they believe in some of the things that feminists believe in, and they begin to hate men. We all know that. They begin to hate men. And that is the whole idea of feminists. A lot. And another thing that came out of feminists is lesbians. So you could pick your poison, but this has never been something that would fix black households. This has never been something that would help us as a community. A woman wanting to get the same job as a man, that should have never been the focus. The focus for us should have been just to get some damn jobs, just to be able to get an equal opportunity. Or the focus, according to the Bible, should have been to separate and follow the law, statute, commandments, and we have to worry about how we getting treated or how much money we getting paid, because we'll look out for each other and be self-sufficient with one another. Where we at? Back to the article.
Okay. You want me to start for opposition to domestic growth? Or you want me to start from the paragraph we were just at? Many other women joining the workforce. Return to the domestic sphere.
Yeah, go ahead right there.
Come on. Many of the women joining the workforce returned to the domestic sphere after the war. Workplace periodicals such as Bosun's Whistle framed women in sexual language and oddities in the male industrial sphere. Opposition to domestic roles began to crop up in the late 1940s as more women are encouraged to become housewives. Edith Stearns enacted.
Salaki, skip down. Is it more? I want you to skip down to however, according to Anna Lebovic.
Oh, okay. Salaki,
yeah, skip down there.
However, according to Anna Lebovic, women's magazines such as In Vogue in the 1950s set up the groundwork for second wave feminism by advocating for self.
Salaki. So now it's saying that women's magazines such as Vogue was a magazine kind of like a Cosmopolitan, right? Where it basically, they're saying it set up the groundwork for second wave feminism, right? Because women are reading these magazines, and see, magazines were the social media at that time. That's what magazines were. Magazines were the social media back in the 1950s and 1960s. This is how people or women, they got that, they got that, what's the word I'm looking for? They got that lust to be something different, to live their best life. I'm gonna put it that way. So that's where they saying that's where the second wave of feminism came from, was magazines like Vogue. Go ahead and keep reading.
Okay. Okay, keep asking me out. So in 1963, Betty Friedan, influenced by the second sex, wrote the best-selling book, The Feminine Mystique, in which she explicitly objected to the mainstream media image of women, stating that placing women at home limited their possibilities and wasted talent and potential.
So this woman, Betty Friedan, she was influenced by another book, The Second Sex, called The Second Sex. She wrote a best-selling book called The Feminine Mystique. And she was objective to mainstream media in the image of women. She said that, you know, women being at home limited their possibilities and wasted talent and potential. Give me Proverbs 31:1. So you heard that the first one we talked about was with women. Edith Stern's essay saying that women are household slaves. Like being at home, you're like a slave. And now this in 1963, Betty Friedan said basically being at home limited your possibilities and wasted the talent and potential that you had. Meaning you could have been a superstar. You could be somebody that is very important in society, but no, you at home taking care of your kids. What are you doing? Right? You're at home. You're at home taking care of your kids. You're at home making meals. You're at home, doing laundry. You're at home, making plans, doing all kind of things that you do at home. But you being at home is limiting your possibilities. It's making you a nobody. You should be out. You should be a star. You got things to give to the world. That didn't come from Black women. That came from the women of your oppressor. That whole idea. But what does the Bible say about a woman and, what she should be doing and how she should be living? So we're going to read some of that. We're going to read Proverbs 31. If you could start at Proverbs 31:11. Somewhere around there.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 31 and verse 11. The heart of her husband do safely trust in her, so that he shall have no need of spoil. Verse 12. She will not do him good and not evil all the days of her life. Verse 13.
I think you might have broke up, but don't sweat it. Keep going.
So again, she keepeth wool, so I can see she seeketh wool and flax, and worketh willingly with her hands. Verse 14. She is like the merchant's ships. She bringeth her food from afar. Verse 15. She rises also while it is yet night, and giveth meat to her husband, and a portion to her maidens. She considereth a field and buyeth it. With the fruit of her hands she planteth a vineyard.
She considered a field and buy it. It says she considered a field, so she buys land.
Right.
She rises early. She takes care of her household. The virtuous woman does a lot of things.
Right.
The virtuous woman ain't just stuck. She ain't no slave in the house.
Right.
A virtuous woman does a lot of things, and she's not held down by anything. This virtuous woman is taking care of her house. She's running a business. She's doing all type of things. This is the heritage of the children of the Lord. This is the heritage of Black women, of Hispanic women, of Native American women. Feminism is not your heritage. Feminism is not your reality. That's not that's not supposed to be your life. Your life ain't supposed to be, hating being a mother, hating being a wife, hating cooking a meal. Nowadays, women don't even like talk about cooking, don't even know how to cook a meal. Like, that's the result of feminism. Feminism did that. Feminism made it to where women don't even know how to cook a damn meal. They need to be outside. They need to be in the warehouse. They need to be doing the same things that men are doing. And it's not fair that men, he's somewhere in some damn power plant, building something, and she can't do it too. Well, the Bible says something different about Black and Hispanic women. It says that she is virtuous. Keep reading.
God. Verse 17. She girdeth her loins with strength, and strengtheneth her arms. She perceiveth that her merchandise is good. Her candle goeth not out by night.
So she got merchandise. She got a business. She has a business. What is that today? An online business,
Right.
a business working out of her house. She has a lot of things to offer. She don't have wasted talent, like this white woman said, or wasted potential. Being a housewife or being at home. Her potential is not wasted. You know what I'm saying? Her potential is limitless.
Right.
Go ahead.
God. She laid, lucky. Verse 19. She layeth her hands to the spindle, and her hands hold the distaff. Verse 20. She stretcheth out her hand to the poor, yea, she reacheth forth her hands to the needy. She is not afraid of the snow for her household, for all her household are clothed with scarlet. She maketh
She doing big things. She giving money to the poor. She's making things at home. A lot of the sisters, they know how to sew they tail off. It's a lot of sisters in the school, they know how to make damn near anything. There's sisters that know how to do nails. There's sisters that know how to do hair. Like all the industries that you see when you go into a plaza at your local downtown area, these are people that have these skills, and usually they're women that have these skills. So you don't have to go and work up under somebody to feel like you're important and feel like you got potential and feel like my time, I'm not wasting myself away in this house. You can do it right in the house, especially in the time that we live in right now. You can literally do a lot of things inside your house, out of your house.
right.
So let me see. You could drop that. I think I made the point. Let's get to also in 1963.
God. Also in 1963, freelance journalist Gloria Steinem gained widespread popularity amongst feminists after a
This is
diary.
glorious. This is glorious. Steinem. Go ahead.
So after a diary she authored while working undercover as a
Let
Playboy
me just
bunny
hold that.
waitress.
Let me get it. Just hold it. Also in 1963, freelance journalist Gloria Steinem gained widespread popularity among feminists after a diary she wrote while working undercover as a Playboy bunny waitress at the Playboy Club was published as a two-part feature in the May and June issues of the show. Show is a magazine. Steinem alleged that the club was mistreating its waitresses in order to gain male customers and exploited the Playboy bunnies as symbol of male chauvinism. Anyway, the point is that she went undercover as a Playboy waitress, and she became a Karen. All right. What the hell you think they doing? She said they was exploiting the Playboy waitresses. What in the hell you think they're going to do? A Playboy a Playboy establishment at a Playboy club, waitresses at a Playboy club. What do you think they're going to do? That's the point of it, is to exploit you. Anyway, I forgot to send you the article. Anyway, a lot of you don't know that this is the same woman, where she's holding a fist up with a black woman for women's liberation. It's a black woman and her Let me get it real quick. This is the picture right here. Yeah, this is the picture I want right here. To the left, right? But this is basically what it boils down to. You have a white feminist and you got a black feminist. The white feminist is the leader and the black feminist is the follower, the one who is lost, the one who is think that she is working towards a cause, but that cause is destroying her family structure. You understand? And so Gloria Steinem, a lot of y'all don't know, she basically, it came out that she was an undercover for it. She was an FBI informant. Not informant, but operative. She was an FBI operative. And I believe it was Russia. That's where she was at one point in time. And she was sent to Russia to break up like some college thing. Not FBI, I'm sorry. CIA. Doesn't make it any better, but it gets deeper. CIA. She was a operative of the CIA. And she also became the public figure of the movement of feminism and women's liberation. So everything I done just brought out is something that you can go and look up. You can go look this up. This is not, you can look this up. Gloria Steinem. And the sister, I believe, the sister that's standing next to her with the fist up, she passed away, I think, like about 2 or 3 years ago. But this is just an example. And this is just to bring it home that Black women that follow feminism are really just it's just another form of following your slave master. And feminism has never helped us. In fact, this is the result of feminism right here. This is the result of women's liberation and feminism. These are Black women. And what those read what those signs say. That is the result of following your oppressor. And I just showed you from a historical perspective how it even started and how Black women were not important in the movement until they realized that, adding these Black women could actually add numbers. General Hyman brought it out about Sojourner Truth. Sojourner Truth, back then, during the time of slavery, she said, "Am I a woman? Don't I deserve for a man to put down a coat over a puddle of water and me walk over it?" Because even then they realized that when it came to this women's suffrage thing and this women feminism thing, that they didn't treat Black women the same way they treated white women. Even within that movement, Black women understood that. They understood that they was not equal even within the movement. And you see that even with all of those things that came out of women's liberation and feminism. You have, when it comes to that LGBTQIJKFA, whatever, that movement is separate. You have white LGBTQ and you have Black LGBTQ. They don't mix. But it's supposed to be something that everybody is fighting for. They don't mix. You know why they don't mix? Because racism is real. Reality is real in how your oppressor actually feels about you. Even in a demographic that is disenfranchised, that is what is it called? Oppressed. They'll say that they're oppressed. Even LGBTQ being oppressed, being on the outskirts of society, being separate from society and looked at different, even them, they are separate, black and white. That should tell you something when you're following these things. So we're going to move on real quick. What I want to get, if you could, give me Exodus 11:7. I'm going to switch the subjects. We're going to go into, we're not African. We're going to skip oppression, but we're going to go into, we are not African, right? So I want to get into, give me, young man, if you could, get Exodus 11:7. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to pull up a picture of some Bambara. And I want you to hold that. Let me see. Let me see. So what I want to do is I want to talk about the Bambara. Like, y'all don't know who the Bambara is, but when we talk about we're not African, there's reasons for that, and it's the prophecies. So when it comes to these prophecies of the Bible and the things that we have learned, we realize that we are the people that fit these prophecies. Now, when you look at West Africa, you look at these places, there's, like tons of ethnic groups. And these ethnic groups go by different names. And these names usually, I'm not saying all the time, but I'm saying usually these names are because of the lands that these people are in. Now, there was a people called the Bambara. And remember, that's not who they are. They're just named after the land in which they were in. So I'm going to get into that. I'm going to go over it real briefly because I don't have that much time. But I'm going to do a documentary, or should I say a lecture, on the Bambara. Okay, let me get this real quick. Give me 1 second. Okay. Let me screen share. I think I want to share. So I want you to go ahead and read that for me.
Exodus 11:7.
Right.
The book of Exodus, chapter 11 and verse 7. But against any of the children of Israel shall not a dog move his tongue against man or beast, that ye may know now, that ye may know how that the Lord doth put a difference between the Egyptians and Israel.
The Lord put a difference between the Egyptians and Israel, And what it's really saying is the Lord put a difference between the children that come out of Shem, that come out of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and the Hamites. He put a difference between us. Now, the Zondervan Bible Compact Dictionary tells you that there's a difference between, dark-skinned people. And there's an issue when it comes to Black Americans. I'm going to say Black Americans versus Africans, Native Africans, and just the education that we have gotten in America in this Northern Hemisphere, which says that because we came from slave ships and we came from West Africa, that we are just Africans that were sold by other tribes. We were, which is true to a certain extent, but we were sold by our own people. And that's something that a lot of Pan-Africanists and Negroes that don't know anything would argue. They would argue against that and say, no, those are our brothers and our sisters. And I would say, well, would you actually sell your grandmother into slavery? Would you actually sell, your cousins or your relatives? Which common sense, and when you do some critical thinking, you realize that doesn't make any goddamn sense at all. And so when it comes to these people who I have on up here is the bombard. These are the actual images that artists depicted when they seen the people. If you look at them right away, you see that they are not a phenotype that is something like a Nigerian, or they don't have a phenotype that is something like somebody from Senegal, which is what Akon is. They definitely have a different look. And we understand that when it comes to dark-skinned people, it is very easy to say that we're all the same. Just like it's very easy to say that all Asians are the same. You look at the Chinese, you look at Japanese, and you say that they're just the same because of their shape of their eyes and whatnot. And you don't really think anything of it until you realize, like, oh, they're Japanese, they're Chinese, and they don't like being called either or, right? They don't like to be mistaken for one another. And so when it comes to Black people, we don't really think about these things. We think that if you're Black, you're Black. Everything is Black. Everything is the same, right? So before I get into that, let me just blow it up real quick. I'm going to see if I can get it closer. All right, this is closer. So this book that I have is called Creole to New Orleans, Race and Americanization. And I'm going to be on page 69. Now, what this book does is it documents the slaves that were coming to New Orleans in that whole area in the Gulf. And so it's just a small little piece of history, right? So we're going to get into it. So what I'm going to read right here is, I'm on page 69, the formation of Afro-Creole culture in Louisiana, right? It says that the French had little hope of trading in Angola except with great difficulty. Although the Company of the Indies had a trading post at Judah, which is the Gulf of Benin, there it competed with all nations of Europe. The Portuguese were taking the upper hand at Judah. The king of our days, or Alada or Porto Novo, were hostile to the Europeans and interrupting trade. The trade at Judah was becoming uncertain and unprofitable. So they called the trade at Judah in the Gulf of Benin. You had a lot of European countries, the Portuguese and European countries, competing for the trade, for taking slaves. So it was so much competing that it became unprofitable, right? But here's the kicker. This is the point that I want to make. I'm going to skip down. The most important kingdoms of Senegambia, which is a country in between, I believe, Salakia, Ghana is in Senegal, but it's at on a corner of Senegal, right? Senegambia, in between Senegal and Gambia. The most important kingdoms of Senegambia maintained a tight control over which peoples could be enslaved and sold to the Europeans. It seems that during the 1720s, neither the Fo or the Fobe nor the Mandinga sold their own people or allowed others to sell them. You know, I like to talk about that. How what I just said, would you sell your own people? Would you sell your grandmother? Would you sell your neighbor? Would you sell the people that you see every day? Would you? Right? Don't make sense. I'm going to read it from the top. It seems that during the 1720s, neither the Fo nor the Mandinga sold their own people or allowed others to sell them. The Bambara enjoyed no such protection during the 1720s, meaning these people called to the Bambara, they was from that land, they didn't get none of that type of protection, right? I got a little more, Salaki. Let me find it. Salaki. Well, that was the point. There's some more about Judah, but that's not relevant to the point that I'm making. The point that I'm making is that they maintain strict control over who could be sold and who couldn't be sold. Now, these are the Bambara, right? Let me go back to the Bambara. These are the Bambara. Like, let me get back to the what I want. I want these are the Bambara, right? These are the Bambara, and we just read about the Bambara, right? There's some more information about the Bambara. There was around the 1940s, 1950s, there was a Jewish man that went out there to study, and he learned the language out there, and he started to realize that their language had certain words that were ancient Paleo Hebrew. And so when we talk about us being God's chosen people, there was never no mystery to us. Like, many of us came into the truth. We came into the truth just understanding that we have to be God's chosen people. We fit all of the prophecies of God's chosen people. We fit even the curses of God's chosen people. We didn't need to see archaeology, manuscripts, documentation, and historical evidence as such that I'm bringing out tonight. We didn't have to see that. We just believed that we are the children of Israel. Well, more information is coming out that in fact solidifies the seven heads. It solidifies Chief Priest Aria's claim that we are the chosen people of God. That solidifies our faith, right? And we didn't need this to believe, but this is something that is worthy to bring out. And I'm going to bring out some heavy stuff, possibly in the West Coast Cookout, in a lecture about us being actually Israelites and showing proof that Israelites were in West Africa. And not only that, like I showed you tonight, that the Bambara, the people at the time that lived in the land of the Bambara, were actually Israelites. Right. And with that, I'm gonna end the class. Thank you for watching. Thank you for rocking with us. You understand? We'll be back next Wednesday for the law and history class. I'm Priest and Officer at the Wagga Bar. I thank the young man for rocking with me. And with that, Shalom, Israel. Clap it up.
Shalom.